Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I like Gibson guitars more than Fender. Before I really get started, I just want to say I love both of these brands very much, and both of them make great guitars. At the end of the day, I'm not saying Gibsons are better than Fenders. I'm just saying that these are the things I like Gibson more for. Which is why in my next video, I'm going to be talking about why I like Fenders more than Gibsons. But personally, I do prefer Gibsons, so that's why I'm starting with this video. So don't get too offended by my opinions, and let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is how they're designed electronically. Gibson instruments are usually, depending on the model, much more simply laid out than Fenders, at least with a Stratocaster in specific. A Strat is laid out with a volume and two tones for 3 pickups. And they're not always designed the same. Sometimes these tone switches will do different things, and sometimes they're all different. There's too many different options with different Strats you can get, while on a Les Paul, I don't think I could think of any other Les Paul model, or even SG, or 335, or any guitar like that, where it's not volume, tone, with a 3-way selector switch. This layout is just much more simple to understand. You get the neck pickup, those are these two, you get the bridge, and those are these two. But with this, you have a 5-way selector switch, which already confuses things a little bit, plus you have this push-push pot, which just adds the neck pickup into whatever you want. Yes, of course, this makes this instrument very versatile, but it also makes things a little bit more confusing. And since we're already speaking about electronics, let's talk about that a little bit. If you're looking for something that can handle gain a little bit better, definitely look into a Gibson-style instrument with humbuckers. The single coils that usually come on Fender instruments do not handle gain the same way as humbuckers. The stuff I like to play, that being hard rock, bluesy solos, and stuff like that, those kind of require a bit of gain, which is why you definitely want humbuckers. And single coils make a lot of noise under especially a lot of gain. They make a lot of hum to them, which a humbucker just bucks that hum. So they have much less unwanted noise, and they just kind of sound a lot better with gain. Also, from my experience, Gibson guitars just sustain better. That includes the SG, the 335, the Les Paul, and all the other models that have a set neck design. A Gibson Les Paul has a set neck design, which is where it's glued into the body itself, while on the majority of Fender instruments, it's bolted on. Well, it's screwed in, but they just call it a bolt-on neck. This can make things a little bit scary because it's a lot easier to fake a Fender instrument than it is to fake a Gibson instrument. So that's something you have to look out for. But with the neck being directly connected with the body, that makes things so it sustains a lot better. You can feel the vibrations in the neck, and it makes me personally feel like I'm connected with the instrument more. While on a Fender, yes, though the gap is very small, there is a gap in between the neck and the body, which makes it so that way the vibrations don't travel as well and last as long. And continuing on, since we're talking about the necks already, Gibson guitars, at least most of them, have fret nibs. If you look at the neck here on the Gibson, you can see that the frets are covered by the edge of the binding. This makes it that way you can't feel the harsh metal ends of the frets, which makes things play a lot smoother, and they are a lot more comfortable. And since on the Fender, this is one of the nicer ones, it's very well dressed, and it is also comfortable to play. You can still feel the edge of the frets, and I think that's just a little bit uncomfortable. At the end of the day, it is just personal preference. I love the feeling of these fret nibs, but honestly, especially with these nicer Fender instruments, these don't feel bad. It just, you can still feel the edge of the fret, which kind of makes things a little bit more uncomfortable. One other thing that makes Strats a little bit more uncomfortable, and this is by far my least favorite thing about the Fender Strat, or any guitar with this issue, is that they have a middle pickup. And what that means is, at least the way that my hand is designed, whenever I'm picking directly over top of that pickup, and it's very common to strike the edge of the pickup, and that's just, it's super annoying because you miss the string, you slap the side of the pickup, and it kind of messes up your whole rhythm. So with all of my guitars that have middle pickups, I completely lower the middle pickup all the way to the fretboard, and that's also just because I don't really use that position anyways, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But it's still annoying that you have to do that, and if you ever do want to use the middle pickup and you have lowered it, it's going to be a lot less, you're not going to be able to hear it as well just because it's so far away from the strings. While on the majority of Gibson instruments, you don't really have to worry about that because, well, it's missing the middle pickup. This next one is definitely something that's just a little bit more of a preference thing, and I think it's okay, but a lot of people will see this as more of a con towards Gibson. And that's that Gibsons are made to be art. And so with the Les Paul specifically, it's not the most comfortable instrument. If I turn them to the side here, you can see the Strat has a nice, comfortable belly carve. Well, this one does not, because that's not the point of it. It's meant to look beautiful. It's meant to be like a wall piece. Not necessarily. It's meant to play well as well, but I think these look quite a bit better than most Fender instruments. Now, of course, that's not all Gibsons. For example, the SG is an incredibly comfortable guitar that has better high fret access than the Strat over here, but this one's also a piece of art, but this one still plays very nicely as well. I don't want to make this video seem like I'm just comparing Les Pauls to Strats, as I'm mostly just comparing the brands. If I had a Telecaster, I would also bring that one up because that one's also not the most comfortable guitar, but unfortunately, I don't have one yet. But coming soon, I might. Another thing that's really good about Gibsons is they hold their value really well. Now this, along with every other thing on this list, could be a good thing or a bad thing. For one, that means if you buy one, you'll probably be able to get a lot of your money back if you ever decide to sell it, or more, because they sometimes appreciate. But that means if you want to buy a used one, you're going to have to spend a bit more than if you buy a used Fender. I'll talk a bit more about this in my next video about why Fenders are better, but Fenders are also just more affordable to start off with. But that's with most models. For example, these two guitars actually cost about the same. But it is great for resale value that these Gibson guitars hold their value a lot better, and they definitely appreciate much more than these Fender instruments. If you're looking to buy a Gibson from the 50s, 60s versus a Fender from the 50s and 60s, the Gibson is going to be vastly more expensive. Don't get me wrong, both of them are going to be expensive. The Fender's still going to run you 50, 60 grand, but that's nothing compared to the $80,000 to $200,000 for a Gibson of the same time period. And lastly, the thing that honestly matters the most at the end of the day of why I like Gibsons more than Fenders, and that is, they just speak to me more. That doesn't mean that Fender's done anything wrong or they make bad instruments or anything like that. I just personally am more attracted to the Gibson range of instruments. Fenders just don't get me as excited whenever I see them for the first time. And that, at the end of the day, is why I like Gibsons more than Fenders. If you guys liked this video at any point, feel free to click like. And if you loved it and you want to see more content from me, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.